Amara Blake thought she understood fear, until two men in black suits told her that her 8-year-old brother's life depended on her walking into a stranger's mansion. She expected a trap, maybe even death, but what waited for her at that dinner table was far more terrifying. A marriage proposal from a mafia boss the world swore would never touch a woman. They said Luca Moretti was cold, untouchable, interested in no one, but when his dark eyes met hers and he whispered, "That's just a rumor," Amara realized she'd entered a game where the rules were written in blood and broken promises. What she didn't know was that this forced union would spark a war, uncover buried grief, and transform her from a struggling caregiver into the most dangerous thing in his world, someone worth dying for. If you're watching this from anywhere in the world, subscribe right now and tell me where you're from, because this story goes places you won't believe. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps. Amara Blake wiped down the last bedside table in room 12, her shoulders aching from the double shift. Mrs. Patterson had finally fallen asleep after hours of restless turning, and the night nurse would be here in 20 minutes. 20 minutes until Amara could go home. 20 minutes until she could check on Elijah. Her phone sat heavy in her scrub pocket. She'd texted him 3 times during her break. No response. That wasn't unusual. Her 8-year-old brother often fell asleep with his tablet still playing videos. But it never stopped the worry from creeping in. She gathered her bag from the staff room, waving goodbye to Linda at the front desk. The October air hit her face as she pushed through the glass doors, sharp and cold. She pulled her jacket tighter and started toward the bus stop, her sneakers squeaking against the wet pavement. That's when she saw it. A black car, sleek and expensive, idling at the curb like a panther waiting to strike. Amara kept walking. Rich people came to visit the nursing home sometimes. It wasn't her business, but the car rolled forward, matching her pace. Her heart kicked against her ribs. She walked faster. The car pulled ahead and stopped. 2 men in dark suits stepped out, blocking her path. "Miss Blake." The taller one had a scar running from his eyebrow to his cheek. His voice was calm, almost polite. "We need you to come with us." "I don't know you." Amara's hand found her phone. "Move, or I'm calling the police." "Your brother is safe," the second man said. He was younger, his jaw tight. For now, the world tilted. "What did you say?" "Elijah is fine, comfortable, watching cartoons." Scarface stepped closer. "He'll stay that way if you get in the car." Blood roared in her ears. "If you touched him—" "We haven't, but we need you to cooperate." He opened the back door. "This is a conversation, not a kidnapping. You have my word." "Your word?" Amara wanted to scream, to run, but her legs wouldn't move. "I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want." 30 minutes of your time, that's all." The younger man's expression softened slightly. "Please, Miss Blake, this concerns your brother's future, his health, the medication. Elijah's medication cost more than her rent. The clinic visits, the specialists, the emergency room trips when his breathing got bad. She was drowning in medical debt. The collection calls never stopped." "How do you know about his health?" Her voice cracked. "Get in the car and we'll explain everything." Amara looked back at the nursing home. Linda was visible through the window, typing at her computer. If Amara screamed, would she hear? Would it matter? These men knew where Elijah was. They knew he was sick. They knew too much. She got in the car. The estate rose out of the darkness like something from a movie. Iron gates, stone walls, gardens that probably cost more to maintain than Amara made in a year. Her stomach twisted tighter with every foot they traveled up the long driveway. The car stopped in front of massive wooden doors. Scarface opened her door, offering his hand. She ignored it and climbed out on her own, legs shaking. "This way." They led her through a marble entryway that echoed with her footsteps. Paintings lined the walls, old, expensive-looking things that probably had names she'd never heard of. Everything gleamed, everything screamed money, and then they entered a dining room. The table could seat 20 people easily, but only 2 chairs were occupied. An older man sat at the head, silver-haired and smiling like a grandfather in a commercial. His suit probably cost more than her car, back when she'd had a car. The other chair held a younger man, dark hair, sharp jawline, eyes that looked through her instead of at her. He wore black, all black, and didn't smile. "Miss Blake," the older man stood, gesturing to an empty chair. "Please sit, you must be exhausted." "Where's my brother?" Amara's hands clenched into fists. "You said he was safe. I want to see him." "He's in the East Wing, watching a movie. He's had dinner, chicken tenders, I believe, and his evening medication." The older man's smile didn't waver. "You can see him after we talk. Who are you?" Don Arturo de Luca, and this, he gestured to the younger man, who still hadn't moved. This is Luca Moretti. Luca. The name sounded familiar, tickling the back of her memory. Where had she heard it before? Sit, please. This won't take long. Amara sat because her legs wouldn't hold her anymore, because these people had Elijah, because she had no choice. A servant actually appeared like something out of a period drama, and placed a glass of water in front of her. She didn't touch it. You're probably confused, Don Arturo said, settling back into his chair. Let me explain. Your family and Luca's family have history, old connections, old debts. My family, Amara shook her head. My parents are dead. It's just me and Elijah. Your grandmother, God rest her soul, knew Luca's grandfather very well. They had an arrangement. What kind of arrangement? A promise. Don Arturo folded his hands. That one day your families would be united, through marriage. The words hung in the air like smoke. Amara laughed. She couldn't help it. The sound burst out of her, sharp and disbelieving. You're joking. I never joke about business. Then you're insane. She stood up, chair scraping against the floor. I don't know what kind of old-world nonsense you're talking about, but I'm not marrying anyone, especially not— Her eyes landed on Luca again, really looked at him this time. He was handsome in a cold, untouchable way, like a statue, like something you weren't supposed to touch. And then it clicked. The name, the rumors she'd heard from Mrs. Rodriguez at work, whose nephew ran with the wrong crowd. The whispers about the young Mafia boss who never looked at women, who kept to himself, who everyone said was, "But you're gay," Amara blurted out. The room went silent. Luca's expression didn't change. He simply looked at her with those dark, unreadable eyes and said, "That's just a rumor." His voice was low, controlled, final. Don Arturo chuckled. "There you have it. Now, shall we discuss the terms?" "No." Amara backed toward the door. "No, this is crazy. You can't force people to get married. This isn't the 1800s. "Of course we can't force you." Don Arturo's smile finally slipped, just a fraction. "But we can make life very difficult. Your brother's medication, for example. Very expensive, very hard to get, without insurance." Ice flooded her veins. "You wouldn't. I wouldn't want to. But business is business." He spread his hands. "However, if you agree to this arrangement, all of Elijah's medical expenses will be covered. The best doctors, the best care, a trust fund for his future, and you'd live here safe and comfortable." "Safe from what?" "From the people who want to hurt this family, from the enemies who would love to use a woman like you, unprotected, vulnerable, to get to Luca." Don Arturo leaned forward. "You stepped into this world the moment your grandmother made that promise. Whether you like it or not, you're already a target. That's not my problem. It became your problem the moment we found you." Luca spoke again, his first real contribution to the conversation. "Don Arturo is offering you a choice. Take it or leave it. But understand what you're leaving behind." Amara's throat tightened. She thought of Elijah's inhaler, the one that cost $200 without insurance, the specialist appointments they'd had to cancel, the nights he couldn't breathe right, and she'd sat up with him, terrified and helpless. "I need to think." "Of course." Don Arturo stood. "Take a few days. Go home. Consider your options. But know this, time is running out. For all of us." The men in suits appeared again, ready to escort her out. "Wait." Amara turned to Luca, who'd been watching her like she was a problem to solve. "What do you get out of this?" For the first time something flickered across his face, something that might have been pain. "Peace," he said quietly, "and an end to expectations." She didn't understand, but she didn't have the energy to ask. They drove her home in silence. Amara's apartment felt smaller than usual, darker. She'd left the TV on for Elijah. She always did when she worked nights, so he wouldn't wake up alone. But the screen was black now. "Elijah." She dropped her bag and rushed to his bedroom. Empty. The blankets were thrown back, his tablet on the floor. "Elijah!" She tore through the apartment, bathroom, closet, under her bed. Her phone shook in her hands as she dialed his number. It rang and rang. And then she heard it. The muffled buzz of his phone coming from the living room. He'd left it on the couch. The window in the living room was open. Just a crack, but enough. Cold air streamed through. She never left that window open. Amara's breath came in short, sharp gasps. She spun around, looking for something, anything. The shadow moved faster than she could react. A hand clamped over her mouth. Another arm wrapped around her waist, yanking her backward. She screamed against the palm, twisting, kicking. Her elbow connected with something solid, and the man grunted. "Hold still," he growled. Another figure emerged from her bedroom. Two of them, both masked. Terror exploded through her. She bit down hard on the hand covering her mouth. The man swore and loosened his grip just enough for her to wrench free. She ran for the door, didn't make it 3 steps. The second man grabbed her hair, pulling her back. Pain shot through her scalp. She clawed at his arms, but he was stronger, dragging her toward the window. This was it. This was how she died, and Elijah was gone, and she'd never know. The window shattered, not from the inside, from the outside. A figure swung through the broken glass like something out of an action movie, landed in a crouch, and rose to full height in one fluid motion. Luca. He moved like violence itself. The first masked man didn't even have time to react before Luca's fist connected with his jaw. Bone cracked. The man dropped like a puppet with cut strings. The second man released Amara and pulled a knife. Big mistake. Luca caught his wrist, twisted, and there was another snap. The knife clattered to the floor. The man screamed. Luca didn't stop. He slammed the man's head into the wall once, twice, and the screaming stopped. Silence, except for Amara's ragged breathing. Luca turned to her, and in the dim light from the street, she saw blood on his knuckles. His expression hadn't changed. Still calm, still cold. "Are you hurt?" His voice was steady, like he asked this question every day. Amara couldn't speak, couldn't move. Luca crossed the room in 3 strides and caught her as her legs gave out. His arms were solid, warm despite everything. He lifted her like she weighed nothing and carried her to the couch, setting her down gently. "Breathe," he said. "You're safe now." "Elijah?" The word came out as a sob. "Is at my villa. Has been all night. I had my men pick him up after you left the nursing home." "You what?" Anger sparked through the fear. "You took my brother?" "I protected your brother." Luca pulled out his phone, tapped something, and showed her the screen. A video. Elijah, curled up in a huge bed, fast asleep. The timestamp showed 20 minutes ago. Amara's hands shook as she took the phone, staring at the image. He was okay. He was safe. "Why?" she whispered. "Because I knew they'd come for you." Luca gestured to the unconscious men. "Don Arturo has enemies. They know about the arrangement. They wanted to get to you first. This is insane." "Yes." He took his phone back. "Which is why you can't stay here. This is my home. This is a target." Luca stood, pulling her up with him. "Pack a bag. Enough for a few days. You're coming with me." "Like hell I am." "Look around, Amara." His voice hardened. "Your window is broken. There are 2 men bleeding on your floor. More will come. They'll keep coming until you're dead or they get what they want. And what do they want? To use you to hurt me, to start a war." He moved toward the window, looking out at the dark street. "Don Arturo was right about one thing. You're in this now, whether you want to be or not." Amara's mind raced. She wanted to argue, to fight, to tell him to get out of her life, but Elijah's face on that screen haunted her. Safe, sleeping peacefully, probably for the first time in months. "If I come with you, I want to see him. Right now." "Of course. And I'm not agreeing to anything else. No marriage, no arrangement." Luca's jaw tightened. "We'll discuss it later." "There's nothing to discuss." He turned back to her, and for the first time, she saw something other than cold control in his eyes, something that might have been exhaustion or resignation. "Pack your bag, Amara, please." The please surprised her more than anything else that night. She packed. The villa looked even more imposing in the darkness. Amara clutched her duffel bag, following Luca through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Everything was marble and wood and silence. "Elijah's room is this way." Luca led her up a curved staircase, their footsteps muffled by thick carpet. "He woke up briefly around 9, asked for you. I told him you were working late. You lied to him. I spared him the truth. There's a difference." Amara didn't have the energy to argue. She just wanted to see her brother. Luca opened a door and warm light spilled out. The room inside was huge, easily 3 times the size of Elijah's bedroom at home. A king-sized bed sat against one wall, and in the middle of it, buried in blankets, was her little brother. She crossed the room in seconds, sinking onto the bed beside him. His face was peaceful, younger in sleep. She brushed his hair back, checking his forehead for fever. Cool. His breathing sounded clear. "His medication is on the nightstand," Luca said quietly from the doorway. "Morning and evening doses. A doctor will come tomorrow to check on him." "A doctor?" Amara looked up. "He doesn't need a doctor. He has chronic asthma and a weakened immune system. He needs monitoring." Luca's tone left no room for argument. "The doctor is already paid. I don't want your money. It's not charity, it's protection." He stepped into the room, his presence somehow making the large space feel smaller. "Your brother's health makes him vulnerable. I'm eliminating that vulnerability. By throwing money at it, by making sure he survives." The words were sharp, edged with something that sounded almost like pain. "You can hate me for the rest of your life, Amara, but right now Elijah's alive because I made sure of it." She wanted to yell at him, wanted to grab Elijah and run, but where would they go? Her apartment wasn't safe. She had no family, no friends who could hide them from whatever nightmare they'd stumbled into. Luca must have read her face, because his expression softened, just slightly. "Your room is across the hall. You should rest. I'm staying here. Suit yourself." He turned to leave, then paused. "There's a panic button by the bed. Red. If anything happens, anything at all, you press it. My men will be here in seconds." "Your men." She laughed, the sound bitter. "How many people work for you?" "Enough." He met her eyes. "Enough to keep you both alive." And then he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him. Amara sat there in the golden lamplight, listening to Elijah breathe, in and out, steady, safe, for now. She lay down beside him, careful not to wake him, and stared at the ceiling. The events of the night played on repeat in her mind. The black car, the masked men, Luca, moving through her apartment like an avenging angel. "That's just a rumor," he'd said, about being gay, about not wanting women, but he'd looked at her in the dining room with all the warmth of a business transaction, like she was a problem, an obligation. What kind of man rescues someone, demands they live in his house but treats them like a burden? Amara closed her eyes, exhaustion finally pulling her under. Her last thought before sleep took her was of Luca's face when she'd asked what he got out of this. "Peace," he'd said. What kind of peace required a fake marriage and a house full of armed men? She had a feeling she was going to find out. Morning came too bright and too early. Amara woke to find Elijah sitting up in bed, playing a game on his tablet. His eyes widened when he saw her. "Mara!" He dropped the tablet and threw his arms around her. "You're here!" "Of course I'm here." She hugged him tight, breathing in the familiar smell of his strawberry shampoo. "How are you feeling?" "Good. Really good." He pulled back, grinning. "This place is so cool. Did you see the TV? It's like 100 inches and there's a pool. Can we go swimming?" "Maybe later." Amara smoothed his hair down. "Did you eat breakfast?" "A man brought pancakes, like a whole stack, with syrup and everything." Elijah bounced on the bed. "Where are we? Is this a hotel?" "It's a friend's house." "What friend?" Before she could answer, someone knocked on the door. It opened without waiting for a response, and a woman in a pressed uniform stepped in, carrying a tray. "Good morning, Miss Blake. Mr. Moretti thought you might be hungry." She set the tray on a side table. "Coffee, toast, fruit, eggs. He also asked me to let you know that the doctor will arrive at 10. "Thank you," Amara said automatically. The woman nodded and left, closing the door behind her. Elijah stared at the food, then at Amara. "Who's Mr. Moretti?" "The man who owns this house." "Is he nice?" Amara thought about the cold efficiency with which Luca had dealt with those men, the way he'd carried her to the couch afterward, the exhaustion in his voice when he'd said, "Peace." "I don't know yet," she answered honestly, "but he's helping us right now." "Why?" "Because," she struggled for words that would make sense to an 8-year-old, "because sometimes people help other people. That's all." Elijah seemed to accept this, turning his attention to the toast. Amara poured herself coffee, grateful for something to do with her hands. A friend's house, what a lie. This wasn't a house, it was a fortress, and Luca wasn't a friend. He was a Mafia boss who'd somehow decided she was his responsibility. The thought made her stomach turn. She needed to talk to him, needed to figure out what happened next, because they couldn't stay here forever. She had a job, bills to pay, a life, however small and difficult. "Elijah, I need to go talk to Mr. Moretti for a bit. You stay here and eat breakfast, okay? Can I watch TV?" "Yes, but keep the volume down." She kissed his forehead and headed for the door. The hallway outside stretched in both directions, lined with more paintings and sculptures that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. No one was around, but she had the distinct feeling she was being watched. Cameras, probably, or guards. She picked a direction and started walking. The villa was a maze. Every hallway looked the same, expensive and empty. She passed a library, a sitting room, what looked like a gym. Finally she heard voices, male voices, speaking in rapid Italian. Amara followed the sound to a partially open door. Through the gap, she could see Luca standing by a window, phone pressed to his ear. His jaw was tight, his free hand clenched into a fist. "No," he said in English, switching mid-conversation. "I won't lose another one." End of discussion. "Another one?" He listened for a moment, then his voice dropped even lower. "You don't understand what's at stake here. She has a child with her, a sick child. If anything happens—" He stopped, turned, his eyes locked on the door, on her. Amara's breath caught. Luca said something sharp into the phone and hung up. "You should be resting. I need to talk to you. Later." "No, now." She pushed the door open fully and stepped inside. The room was an office, she realized. Massive desk, leather chairs, walls lined with bookshelves. "We need to figure this out." "There's nothing to figure out." Luca set his phone down. "You'll stay here until the threat is neutralized. And how long will that take? Days? Weeks? However long it takes. I have a job, Luca. I have responsibilities. Your responsibility is keeping your brother alive." His voice was flat. "Everything else is secondary. You don't get to decide that. I just did." He moved away from the window, and she saw how tired he looked. Dark circles under his eyes, a tightness around his mouth that spoke of sleepless nights. "You think I want this? You think I enjoy having strangers in my house? Then let us go. So you can die?" He laughed, the sound harsh. "So your brother can watch you bleed out on your apartment floor? That's your plan?" The words hit like a slap. Amara flinched. Luca's expression shifted. Just for a second, she saw regret flicker across his face, but then it was gone, replaced by that cold mask. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "That was cruel. You're right, though." Amara wrapped her arms around herself. "I can't protect him. Not from this. Which is why you're here. But for how long? What's the endgame?" She met his eyes. "Don Arturo said I'm already a target, that we're connected now. So when does it end?" Luca was quiet for a long moment. Then he moved to his desk, pulling out a folder. "It ends when you agree to the arrangement. The marriage. Yes." "Why?" Amara stepped closer. "Make it make sense. Why do you need to marry me? What does that accomplish?" "It makes you untouchable." He opened the folder, revealing documents, contracts, photographs, things she didn't understand. "Once you're my wife, you're under my protection. Officially. Any attack on you becomes an attack on my family. It changes the game. So I'm a pawn. You're a person who got caught in something she didn't create." His voice softened. "I know it's not fair. I know you didn't ask for this. But right now, this is the only way to keep you and Elijah safe." Amara looked at the papers spread across his desk. Her grandmother's name jumped out at her from one of them. A contract dated 30 years ago. Old promises, old debts, coming back to haunt her. "And if I refuse? Then you're on your own, and Don Arturo's enemies will never stop coming." Luca closed the folder. "Is that really what you want?" "No. God, no." But she didn't want this either. Didn't want to be trapped in a loveless arrangement with a man who looked at her like she was a problem to solve. "I need time to think." "You have until tonight." Luca walked past her toward the door. "The doctor will be here soon. I suggest you be with Elijah when he arrives." "Where are you going?" He paused at the doorway, his back to her. "To make sure last night doesn't happen again." And then he was gone, leaving her alone in the office with all its expensive furniture and broken promises. Amara sank into one of the leather chairs, her head in her hands. This couldn't be her life. It couldn't. But as she sat there in the morning light, surrounded by wealth she'd never have and threats she didn't understand, one thing became crystal clear. She was trapped, and the only way out was through. The doctor's name was Elena Rossi. She was middle-aged, with kind eyes and gentle hands. She examined Elijah thoroughly while Amara hovered nearby, answering questions about his medical history, his medications, his episodes. "His lungs sound good," Dr. Rossi said finally, tucking her stethoscope away. "Better than I expected, given his file." "His file?" Amara frowned. "How do you have his file?" "Mr. Moretti provided it. Hospital records, specialist notes, everything." The doctor smiled at Elijah, who was playing with a toy car someone had left on the nightstand. "I'll be checking in twice a week, more often if needed, and I'm available by phone anytime, day or night." "That's really not necessary." "Mr. Moretti insists." Dr. Rossi stood, packing her supplies. "He's very concerned about Elijah's well-being." After she left, Amara sat on the edge of the bed, watching her brother zoom the toy car across the blankets. He made soft engine noises, lost in his own world. For the first time in months, he looked genuinely happy. No wheezing, no exhaustion, just a kid being a kid. "Mara," Elijah looked up. "Can we stay here?" Her throat tightened. "What? This place is nice, and I feel good here." He set the car down. "Better than home." "Elijah, I know we can't stay forever, but maybe just a little while." His brown eyes were so hopeful, so innocent. "Please." Amara pulled him into a hug, blinking back tears. How could she explain that staying here meant giving up everything? Her freedom, her independence, her right to choose her own life. But looking at his face, seeing him healthy and safe, what choice did she really have? "We'll see," she whispered. "We'll see." That afternoon, a woman appeared at their door. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with perfect makeup and a designer dress that probably cost more than Amara's rent. "Miss Blake, I'm Sophia. Mr. Moretti asked me to show you around the estate." Her smile was professional, practiced. "And to help you get settled." "I'm not staying long enough to get settled." Sophia's smile didn't waver. "Of course. But while you're here, you should know where everything is." For Elijah's sake, it was a good tactic, hard to argue with. Amara told Elijah to stay in the room and watch TV, then followed Sophia into the maze of hallways. The villa was even bigger than she'd realized. Kitchen, industrial-sized, staffed by 3 people. Dining room could seat 30. Living room, with a fireplace you could stand in. Pool, Olympic-sized, surrounded by gardens that looked like they belonged in a magazine. "Mr. Moretti's office is off-limits," Sophia said as they walked past a heavy wooden door. "As is the East Wing. That's his private quarters." Noted. Amara wasn't planning on exploring anyway. They passed armed men, casually dressed but obviously guards, stationed at various points throughout the house. None of them spoke. They just watched, assessing, ready. "Security is very important here," Sophia explained, reading Amara's expression. "For everyone's safety." "Prison would be safer," Amara muttered. Sophia's professional mask slipped for just a second, revealing something that might have been sympathy, but she recovered quickly, leading Amara up another staircase. "The library is here. Mr. Moretti has an extensive collection. Feel free to borrow anything." She gestured to a room full of floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. "And the gym is on the ground floor, though I doubt you'll have much use for it." They ended the tour in a sitting room with tall windows overlooking the gardens. Late afternoon sun poured through the glass, painting everything gold. "This is one of my favorite spots," Sophia said quietly. "Peaceful." Amara studied her. "How long have you worked here?" 3 years. "And you like it?" Sophia hesitated. "Mr. Moretti is complicated, but he's fair, and he protects his people. His people. Like I'm supposed to be one of his people now." "You're here, aren't you?" Sophia moved toward the door. "Dinner is at 7. Someone will come get you. And Miss Blake?" "Yes." "Whatever you decide about the arrangement, Elijah will be taken care of." Mr. Moretti gave his word. The words should have been comforting. Instead, they felt like chains. After Sophia left, Amara stood alone in the golden light, looking out at the manicured gardens. This world was so far from her own, so foreign. How was she supposed to fit here? She thought about her apartment, small and shabby, but hers. Her job at the nursing home, exhausting but meaningful. Her life, hard but free. Freedom, that was the word that kept echoing in her mind. If she agreed to this marriage, she'd lose that, become Mrs. Moretti. Property of a man she didn't know, didn't trust, didn't love. But Elijah would be safe, healthy, would have opportunities she could never give him on her own. What kind of choice was that? Dinner was served in a smaller dining room, intimate by mansion standards, though the table still seated 12. Amara and Elijah arrived to find Luca already there, reading something on his phone. He looked up when they entered, his expression unreadable. "Good evening." "Hi," Elijah said, surprisingly cheerful. He climbed into a chair across from Luca. "This house is so big. Sophia showed us the pool. Can I swim tomorrow?" "If the doctor approves, yes." Luca set his phone down. "Did you enjoy your day?" "Yeah. The TV has like 1,000,000 channels. And someone brought me lunch, grilled cheese. It was really good." Amara watched them, surprised. Luca's demeanor had shifted completely. With Elijah, his voice was warmer, almost gentle. The cold mask had slipped away, revealing something human underneath. "I'm glad you're comfortable here," Luca said. "Are you Mara's boyfriend?" Amara choked on the water she'd just sipped. "Elijah." "No," Luca said calmly. "I'm a family friend." "Oh." Elijah seemed disappointed. "Mara needs a boyfriend. She never goes on dates or anything. She's always working." "Elijah, That's enough. Amara's face burned, but Luca was almost smiling. Almost. Your sister is very dedicated to you. That's admirable. Yeah, she's the best. Elijah grabbed a roll from the basket a server had placed on the table. But she works too much. And she gets sad sometimes. I can tell. I do not get sad. You do. When you think I'm asleep, you sit in the kitchen and just stare at nothing. Elijah looked at Luca seriously. It's because of money stuff, and my medicine costs a lot. I heard you tell Mrs. Chen that once. The room went quiet. Even the servers seemed to fade into the background. Amara couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. She'd tried so hard to shield him from the worst of it, but of course he'd noticed. Kids always noticed. Elijah, Luca said gently, your medicine isn't a problem anymore. Neither is money. Your sister won't have to worry about that here. Really? Elijah's eyes lit up. So we can stay? If your sister agrees, yes. Elijah turned to Amara, hopeful and pleading. Can we? Please? Every eye in the room was on her. The servers. Luca, her baby brother, who just wanted to feel safe for once in his short life. We'll talk about it later, she managed. Dinner continued in strained silence after that. Amara pushed food around her plate, not tasting any of it. Luca ate methodically, occasionally asking Elijah questions about school, about his favorite subjects, about the books he liked to read. He was good with kids. That surprised her. She'd expected him to be cold with everyone, not just her. After dinner, a server, an older man with grey hair, offered to take Elijah to the library to pick out some books. Elijah looked at Amara for permission. Go ahead. I'll be there in a few minutes. Once they were alone, Luca leaned back in his chair, studying her. You're angry. You used my brother against me. I answered his questions honestly. You manipulated him, made promises to make him want to stay. Amara's hands clenched into fists on the table. That's not fair. What's not fair is an 8-year-old boy worrying about medical bills. Luca's voice was sharp. What's not fair is you working yourself to death trying to keep him alive. I'm offering you a way out. At what cost? A marriage in name only. Separate rooms, separate lives. He stood, moving to the window. I don't expect love, Amara. I don't expect anything but your presence and your safety. Then why me? If it's just about appearances, you could marry anyone. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. Because you're already connected to this. Because Don Arturo made sure of that. And because, he turned to face her, because I made you a promise. What promise? To keep you alive, and I always keep my promises. The intensity in his eyes made her look away. There was something there, something dark and haunted that she didn't understand. I won't lose another one, he'd said on the phone. Another what? Another woman? Another wife? The rumors about his sexuality had started after something. After his wife died, maybe. Amara's mind raced. If Luca had lost someone before, someone he'd failed to protect, then maybe this wasn't just about politics or arrangements. Maybe it was personal. What happened to your wife? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Luca's entire body went rigid. That's not relevant. It is if I'm supposed to take her place. You're not taking anyone's place. His voice was ice. This conversation is over. He walked out, leaving her alone in the dining room. Amara sat there, heart pounding. She'd hit a nerve, a big one. Whatever happened to Luca's first wife, it had broken something in him, something that maybe couldn't be fixed. And now he wanted to marry again, not for love, but for control, for protection, for peace. What kind of life would that be? That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She lay in the guest room across from Elijah's, staring at shadows on the ceiling. The bed was too soft. The room was too quiet. Everything felt wrong. Around midnight, she gave up and slipped into the hallway. Maybe walking would help clear her head. The villa was different at night. Darker, more menacing. She passed empty rooms and silent corridors, not sure where she was going, just moving. She found herself outside Luca's office. The door was closed, but light spilled out from underneath. He was still awake. She shouldn't disturb him, should just go back to her room and try to sleep. But her hand was already knocking. Come in. Luca sat behind his desk. Paperwork spread in front of him. He'd changed into casual clothes, dark jeans and a black t-shirt. Without the formal suits, he looked younger, more human. Can't sleep? He asked without looking up. No. Amara closed the door behind her. Can I ask you something? You're going to anyway. Fair point. She moved closer to the desk. Why did the rumors start? About you being gay. His pen stopped moving. Why does it matter? Because I need to understand who I'm supposedly marrying. You're marrying a man who will keep you safe. That's all you need to know. That's not good enough. She planted her hands on the desk, leaning forward. You want me to uproot my entire life to tie myself to you legally, but you won't even tell me the truth? That's not how this works. This isn't a negotiation. Yes, it is. Everything is a negotiation. Amara held his gaze. You want something from me. I want something from you. Honesty is the minimum. Luca's jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he'd kick her out, but then he set his pen down and rubbed his eyes, suddenly looking exhausted. My wife died 5 years ago, he said quietly. Isabella, she was pregnant. The air left Amara's lungs. It was supposed to be a safe event, a charity gala, public, visible, protected. His voice was flat, emotionless. But someone planted a bomb. The explosion killed 12 people. Isabella was one of them. Luca. I was in the next room when it happened. I heard the blast. Ran in. Found her. He stopped, swallowing hard. She was still alive. For a few minutes. Long enough to tell me she was scared. Long enough to ask me to save our baby. Tears pricked Amara's eyes. I'm so sorry. After that, I stopped going to events. Stopped dating. Stopped pretending to have a normal life. He looked at her finally, and the pain in his eyes was devastating. People started talking, saying I'd never really loved her, that I preferred men, that I was cold. You let them believe it. It was easier than the truth. He stood, moving to the window. Easier than admitting I'd failed her, that I'd promised to protect her and couldn't. Amara's heart ached. This wasn't just about keeping her safe. This was about Luca trying to redeem himself, trying to save someone when he'd failed before. You can't save everyone, she said softly. I can save you. And Elijah, he turned back to her. If you let me, by marrying you. Yes, and living here, under guard, for the rest of my life. You'd be alive. That's more than Isabella got. The words hung between them, heavy and brutal. Amara understood now. This wasn't about her, not really. It was about Luca's guilt, his grief, his desperate need to protect someone, anyone, to make up for the life he couldn't save. She should be angry, should resent being used as a redemption project, but all she felt was sadness. For him, for Isabella, for the baby who never got a chance. Okay, she heard herself say. Luca blinked. What? Okay, I'll marry you. The words felt surreal, like someone else was speaking. But I have conditions. Name them. Elijah is my priority, always. If he needs something, school, doctors, anything, it happens immediately. Agreed. I'm not a prisoner. I can leave the estate when I want with appropriate security. Reasonable. And, she took a breath, we tell Elijah the truth. Not everything, but enough. I won't lie to him about what this is. Luca hesitated. He's 8. He's smart. He'll know something's wrong if we pretend this is a normal relationship. Amara crossed her arms. We tell him we're getting married for safety, for protection. We don't have to explain the details, but we're honest. Fine. Luca moved back to his desk, pulling out a fresh folder. The ceremony will be in 3 days, private, just us, a judge and witnesses. 3 days. Her stomach flipped. One more thing, she said. Yes? Separate rooms. You said we'd have separate lives. I want that in writing. Something flickered across his face. Hurt, disappointment, but it was gone before she could name it. Of course. He made a note on the document. Anything else? No. She moved toward the door, feeling numb. I should go. Amara. She stopped, hand on the doorknob. Thank you, Luca said quietly, for trusting me. She almost laughed. Trust? She didn't trust him at all. She was making a calculated decision to save her brother's life, nothing more. But looking at him, at the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight of old grief on his shoulders, she couldn't bring herself to say that. Don't make me regret this, she said instead. I won't. She hoped he was right. The next morning, Amara woke to find Elijah already up and dressed, sitting at the foot of her bed like an eager puppy. Sophia said we're going shopping, he bounced. Like, real shopping, at fancy stores. What? Amara sat up, disoriented. Who said that? Mr. Moretti. He said you need stuff, clothes and things. Elijah grinned. Can I get new shoes? My sneakers have a hole. Guilt stabbed through her. She'd been meaning to get him new shoes for weeks, but there'd never been enough money. Yes, she said. You can get new shoes. Shopping turned out to mean a convoy of black SUVs and 6 armed guards. Sophia rode with them, chatting pleasantly about nothing, while Elijah pressed his face to the window, watching the world go by. They went to stores Amara had only seen in movies, places where the price tags made her dizzy. Sophia insisted she try on dresses, suits, casual clothes. "You'll need a full wardrobe, Mrs. Moretti." Mrs. Moretti. The name felt like a costume. Elijah got new shoes, new clothes, new everything. He tried on outfit after outfit, doing little spins to make Amara laugh. For a few hours, she almost forgot why they were there, almost forgot the invisible chains tightening around her life. But then she caught sight of the guards always watching, always there. This was her life now, gold-plated, protected, trapped. Back at the villa, Sophia helped carry bags upstairs, while Elijah raced ahead, eager to show off his new treasures. "Thank you," Amara said, "for today, for being kind." Sophia smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Mr. Moretti asked me to help. I'm just doing my job." "Still, you didn't have to be nice about it. He's not a bad man," Sophia said quietly. "He's just damaged. But he cares in his own way. He'll keep you safe." "That's what everyone keeps saying, because it's true." Sophia touched her arm gently. "I know this isn't what you wanted, but you could do worse than Luca Moretti. Maybe. But she could have done better than a marriage born of desperation and old debts." That evening, a man arrived. Tall, muscular, with sharp eyes and a harder edge than Luca. He found Amara in the library and introduced himself. "Santino Ricci. I work with Luca." "Work with, not work for. Interesting." "What can I do for you?" Amara asked. "I wanted to meet the woman brave enough, or foolish enough, to marry my oldest friend." He studied her like she was a puzzle. "You don't look like much." "Excuse me? No offense, but you're marrying into a world you don't understand. Enemies everywhere. Danger at every turn." Santino crossed his arms. "I need to know you won't crack under pressure, won't put Luca at risk." "I didn't ask for any of this. None of us asked for it. But here we are." His voice softened slightly. "Luca lost someone before. It broke him. He's putting himself back together by protecting you. But if you're not strong enough for this life, then what? You'll kill me yourself?" "No." Santino smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "But I'll make sure you don't hurt him, one way or another." He left without another word. Amara stood there, shaking. This world, Luca's world, was more dangerous than she'd realized. Not just from outside enemies, but from the people closest to him. She found Luca in his office again, working late as usual. He looked up when she entered, concern crossing his face. "What's wrong?" "Santino just threatened me." Luca's expression darkened. "What did he say?" She repeated the conversation. With each word, Luca's jaw grew tighter. "I'll handle it," he said finally. "He's your friend. He's my right hand. But you're going to be my wife." Luca stood. "No one threatens you, ever." The intensity in his voice made her breath catch. He meant it, completely. "This world you're in," she said. "It's more complicated than you told me." "Yes." "And more dangerous." "Yes." "And you still want me to marry you." He crossed the room slowly, stopping just in front of her, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes, close enough to feel the heat from his body. "I want you to live," he said quietly. "Everything else is secondary." Her heart pounded. This close, she could see the exhaustion etched into his face. The weight he carried, the old grief that never quite left his eyes. He wasn't doing this for himself. He was doing it for Isabella, for the baby he couldn't save, for redemption he'd never quite achieve. And somehow, that made it harder to hate him. 2 days, she whispered. 2 days until the wedding. Yes, I'm terrified. So am I. His hand lifted, hovering near her face like he wanted to touch her but didn't dare. "But we'll figure it out. Together." The word hung between them. Together. Like they were a team. Like this could be something other than a business arrangement. Amara knew better. Knew this was temporary, practical, a means to an end. But looking at Luca in the dim office light, seeing vulnerability behind the cold mask, she let herself wonder, just for a second, what it might be like if it were real. Then reality crashed back in. The guards outside, the threats from Santino, the enemies she didn't even know about yet. This wasn't a love story. It was survival. And survival, Amara was learning, came at a very high price. The morning of the wedding arrived grey and cold. Amara stood at the window of her room, watching rain streak down the glass. Somewhere in the villa, preparations were being made, flowers arranged, the judge briefed, witnesses assembled. She felt nothing, just numbness. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Come in." Sophia entered carrying a garment bag. Good morning. I brought your dress. The dress. Right, because even a business transaction needed the proper costume. Sophia unzipped the bag, revealing a simple cream-colored dress, elegant but not extravagant, perfect for a wedding that wasn't really a wedding. Mr. Moretti chose it himself, Sophia said. He has good taste. Does he? Amara's voice was flat. He also asked me to give you this. Sophia pulled a small box from her pocket. He said it belonged to his mother. The box was velvet, worn at the edges. Inside sat a delicate silver bracelet with a single pearl charm. Amara's throat tightened. This was supposed to be practical, emotionless, but Luca giving her his mother's jewelry, that meant something, even if she didn't want it to. Tell him thank you, she managed. Tell him yourself. He's downstairs. Sophia smiled gently. You have an hour, I'll help you get ready. The ceremony took place in the villa's formal sitting room. Rain drummed against the windows, creating a soundtrack of melancholy. A judge stood by the fireplace, an older man with kind eyes, who'd clearly been paid well to ask no questions. Luca waited near the window, dressed in a dark suit. When Amara entered, he turned, and something flickered across his face. Surprise? Appreciation? It was gone too quickly to name. Elijah sat in a chair near the front, swinging his legs nervously. They'd told him the truth last night, a simplified version, that Amara and Luca were getting married to keep the family safe, that it was complicated but necessary. He'd cried, asked if Amara loved Luca. She'd said, I care about him, which wasn't exactly a lie. She did care, just not in the way marriages were supposed to be built on. Santino stood in the corner, watching everything with those sharp, assessing eyes. Two other men Amara didn't recognize served as additional witnesses. Shall we begin? The judge asked. It happened quickly. Vows that felt hollow. Rings, simple gold bands that slid onto fingers with practiced ease. Words about love and commitment that rang false in the rain-soaked afternoon. You may kiss the bride. Luca hesitated, leaned in, pressed his lips to Amara's forehead instead of her mouth. It was almost tender, almost kind. Congratulations, the judge said, though no one looked happy. Elijah clapped anyway, trying to make it feel normal. Amara's heart broke a little. After the witnesses left, Luca poured 2 glasses of wine, handed one to Amara. To survival, he said quietly. She clinked her glass against his. To survival. They drank in silence while rain continued to fall. That night, Amara lay in her bed, her room as promised, and stared at the gold band on her finger. Mrs. Moretti. The name felt foreign, like someone else's identity borrowed and worn. Her phone buzzed. A text from Linda at the nursing home. Heard you got married. Congrats, girl. When are you coming back to work? Amara stared at the message. She hadn't thought about work, hadn't thought about anything beyond survival. She typed back, taking some time off. Family stuff. I'll let you know. More texts followed, from co-workers, from the few friends she had. Everyone shocked, everyone curious. How did she explain this? How did she tell anyone the truth? She turned her phone off. A sound from the hallway made her sit up. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. Luca's room was at the end of the hall. The footsteps stopped outside her door. A pause. Then they continued, fading away. Was he checking on her, making sure she was okay? Or just patrolling his fortress, ensuring all his assets were secure? Amara pulled the blankets higher and closed her eyes, willing sleep to come. It didn't. The days that followed developed a strange rhythm. Breakfast with Elijah, who seemed happier than he'd been in years. Mornings in the library or by the pool. Afternoons with Dr. Rossi, who checked Elijah's vitals and declared him thriving. Evenings were the hardest. Dinner with Luca. Quiet, awkward meals where they talked about nothing important. Weather. Books. Elijah's progress. Never the marriage. Never the future. Never the fact that they were strangers living under the same roof, wearing rings that meant everything and nothing. On the 4th night, Santino joined them for dinner. He'd been scarce since the wedding, but now he sat across from Amara, studying her like she was a specimen under glass. You're settling in well, he observed. I'm trying. Amara cut her chicken carefully. It's an adjustment. I'm sure. Santino glanced at Luca. Don Arturo wants to meet with you. Tomorrow. Luca's fork paused midair. Why? He didn't say, but he's insistent. Santino's tone carried a warning. Something's happening. Then I'll go. Alone. Yes. Luca. Alone, Santino. Luca's voice was firm. I can handle Don Arturo. After dinner, Amara found Luca in his office again. He was reading something on his computer, frowning. You're going to meet with Don Arturo, she said. You were eavesdropping. It's my life too now. I have a right to know what's happening. Luca leaned back, rubbing his temples. Don Arturo is concerned about our marriage, wants to ensure everything is proceeding as planned. Meaning? Meaning he wants to make sure you're cooperating, that this arrangement is legitimate. Amara's stomach twisted. What happens if he decides it's not? He won't. Luca met her eyes. Because we're going to make him believe it is. How? By acting like a married couple, in public, at events. He stood, moving around the desk. I know it's not what we agreed to. So you're changing the terms? Anger sparked in her chest. I have to pretend to love you now? You have to pretend to tolerate me. There's a difference. His voice was calm, measured, hand-holding, standing close, looking comfortable together. That's all. That's not all. That's intimacy, performance. It's survival. He stopped in front of her. Don Arturo has enemies who want to use this marriage against him, against me. If they sense weakness, they'll exploit it. And you and Elijah will be caught in the crossfire. So I'm supposed to smile and play house while you… What? Make deals? Kill people? The words came out sharper than she intended. Luca's jaw tightened. I do what's necessary to protect my family. Your family now. I'm a contract. You're my wife. The intensity in his voice made her step back. Whether you believe it or not, I take that seriously. Your safety, Elijah's safety. It matters to me. Because of Isabella. His face went carefully blank. Don't. It's true though, isn't it? You're trying to save me because you couldn't save her. Amara moved closer, driven by frustration and something darker. I'm your second chance. Your redemption project. You don't know what you're talking about. Then tell me I'm wrong. Tell me this isn't about your guilt. She was close enough now to see his chest rise and fall with controlled breathing. Tell me I'm more than just a way to ease your conscience. The silence stretched between them, thick and charged. Finally, Luca spoke, his voice low and dangerous. You want the truth? Fine. Yes, I failed Isabella. Yes, I carry that every day. But this isn't about redemption. It's about not making the same mistake twice. What mistake? Caring too much. The words were raw, pulled from somewhere deep. I cared about Isabella, loved her, and when she died, it nearly destroyed me. So no, Amara, this isn't about guilt. It's about keeping distance, keeping control, keeping you alive without… He stopped, looking away. Without what? Without letting myself feel anything about it. The confession hung in the air between them, brutal and honest and painful. Amara's anger drained away, replaced by something softer. Sadness, maybe, or understanding. That's no way to live, she said quietly. It's the only way I know how. He moved back to his desk, putting space between them. The meeting with Don Arturo is tomorrow. We'll leave at 10. Wear something nice. Luca. Good night, Amara. Dismissed. She left, but the conversation echoed in her mind for hours. Don Arturo's estate made Luca's villa look modest. Everything gleamed with excessive wealth. Gold fixtures, marble statues, gardens that looked machine-perfect. Amara wore a navy dress that Sophia had selected, her hair pulled back, the silver bracelet from Luca's mother on her wrist. She felt like she was wearing armor. Luca's hand rested on the small of her back as they entered. The touch was light, impersonal, but it burned through the fabric of her dress. Remember, he murmured, we're happy, in love, grateful for Don Arturo's generosity. I'm a terrible actress. You're doing fine. Don Arturo greeted them in a grand parlor, all smiles and false warmth. The newlyweds, come sit, let me look at you. They sat on an ornate couch, too close, their thighs touching. Luca's hand found hers, fingers interlacing. His grip was firm, grounding. You look well, my dear, Don Arturo said to Amara. Marriage agrees with you. Thank you. She forced a smile. Luca has been very kind. Kind? He's done more than that. Taken in your sick brother, provided everything you need. Don Arturo poured wine. Such generosity deserves loyalty, don't you think? The word hung in the air like a threat. Of course, Amara said carefully. I'm grateful for everything. Good, good. Don Arturo handed them glasses. Because there are those who question this arrangement, who wonder if it's real, if it's strong enough to withstand pressure. Our marriage is legitimate, Luca said, his voice hard, legally and personally. Of course it is, but appearances matter in our world. Don Arturo leaned forward. Which is why I'm hosting a gathering next week, all the families. You'll attend together, and you'll show everyone that this union is solid. We'll be there, Luca said. Excellent. Don Arturo's smile widened. I knew I could count on you. The rest of the meeting was small talk. Business ventures, mutual acquaintances, veiled threats disguised as friendly advice. Amara smiled and nodded and held Luca's hand, playing her part. But underneath, fear coiled in her stomach. In the car ride home, Luca was silent. His hand, which had held hers so convincingly inside, now rested on his own thigh. Distance restored. You did well, he said finally. I lied through my teeth. Welcome to my world. Amara looked out the window at the passing landscape. This gathering he mentioned, what is it really? A test. He wants to see if we're convincing, if we can stand in front of his enemies and allies and look like a real couple. And if we can't, then he'll decide you're a liability, and liabilities get eliminated. The casual way he said it made her blood run cold. You mean he'll kill me? He'll try. Luca's jaw was set. But that won't happen. I won't let it. How can you stop him? He's powerful. So am I. He turned to look at her, and the intensity in his eyes was startling. Don Arturo thinks he controls this situation. He doesn't. I do. And I will keep you safe, Amara. Whatever it takes. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this cold, controlled man could protect her from forces she didn't understand. But trust was earned, not demanded. And Luca hadn't earned hers yet. That evening, Elijah had a coughing fit. Amara heard it from her room, wet, harsh sounds that made her heart stop. She ran to his room, finding him sitting up in bed, struggling to breathe. It's okay, baby. I'm here. She grabbed his inhaler, helping him take 2 puffs. Breathe. Slow. That's it. But the coughing continued. His face was turning red, tears streaming down his cheeks. Luca! Amara screamed, panic overwhelming her. Luca! He appeared in seconds, taking in the situation instantly. He scooped Elijah up like he weighed nothing, carrying him toward the door. The infirmary now. Amara followed, her heart pounding. The infirmary was on the 1st floor, a full medical suite with equipment that looked hospital-grade. Dr. Rossi must have been on call because she arrived minutes later, immediately assessing Elijah. It's an infection, she said after listening to his lungs. Mild, but enough to trigger his asthma. I'll start him on antibiotics. She worked quickly, efficiently. Within 20 minutes, Elijah was breathing easier, tucked into the infirmary bed with an IV in his small arm. Amara sat beside him, holding his free hand. Tears she'd been holding back finally fell. He's okay, Dr. Rossi said gently. This happens sometimes. His immune system is still fragile. I should have noticed sooner, should have. You did everything right. Luca's voice came from behind her. He's getting the best care possible. Amara wiped her eyes. Can I stay with him? Of course, I'll have blankets brought down. He moved to the door, then paused. Amara, she looked up. You're a good sister. He's lucky to have you. The words were simple, but they cracked something inside her. All the stress, all the fear, all the impossible weight she'd been carrying for so long, it poured out in silent sobs. She heard Luca leave, heard him give quiet orders to someone in the hallway. Then she felt a blanket draped over her shoulders, felt someone sit in the chair next to hers. Luca. He didn't speak, didn't try to comfort her with empty words. He just sat there, a solid presence in the darkness, while she cried. After her tears dried, she whispered, Thank you for being here. I meant what I said. You're family now. His voice was soft, and I take care of my family. They sat in silence, watching Elijah sleep, the steady beep of monitors, the soft hiss of oxygen, the sound of breathing, in and out, alive, safe. Around midnight, Amara's head began to nod. Exhaustion pulled at her, but she fought it. She needed to stay awake, needed to watch over Elijah. Sleep, Luca said quietly. I'll watch him. You don't have to. I want to. He met her eyes. Trust me. Just this once. It was the vulnerability in his voice that decided her, the crack in his armor. She let her eyes close, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she felt safe. When Amara woke, grey morning light filtered through the infirmary windows. She was in a proper bed now. Someone must have moved her during the night. Elijah slept soundly in the next bed, his breathing clear, and Luca sat in the chair between them, still dressed in yesterday's clothes, his eyes closed. He'd stayed all night. Dr. Rossi entered quietly, checking Elijah's vitals. The infection is responding to treatment. He'll be fine. Thank you, Amara whispered. Mr. Moretti insisted on the best equipment, the best medications. Your brother is in excellent hands. Dr. Rossi smiled. He cares deeply about your family. After the doctor left, Luca stirred, opened his eyes, immediately alert. Good morning, Amara said. How do you feel? Better. Thank you for staying. He stood, rolling his shoulders to work out stiffness. I told you I would. Most people say things they don't mean. I'm not most people. He moved toward the door. I need to shower, change. Santina will be here if you need anything. Luca? He turned back. Last night, when you said family, did you mean it? The question hung between them. She watched emotions flicker across his face. Surprise, uncertainty, something that might have been hope. Yes, he said finally. I meant it. Even though this is just an arrangement, even though we're not real. He moved back toward her, each step deliberate. What makes something real, Amara? A piece of paper, emotions, or the choice to show up when it matters? I don't know. Neither do I. He stopped close enough that she could see the exhaustion etched into his features. But I know I sat here all night watching your brother breathe. I know I'd kill anyone who tried to hurt either of you. And I know that when I said the vows at our wedding, I meant them, even if you didn't. The words stole her breath. I never said I didn't. You didn't have to. I could see it in your eyes. There was no anger in his voice, just resignation. You married me to save Elijah. That's fine, I understand, but don't question whether I take this seriously. Don't question whether you matter. He left before she could respond. Amara sat there, stunned. She'd been so focused on her own feelings, her own fear, resentment, anger, that she'd never considered his. Luca Moretti, cold and controlled, had meant his vows, had called them family and meant it, had stayed up all night watching over a child who wasn't his. What did that mean? Elijah stirred, opening his eyes. Mara, I'm here, baby. She moved to his bedside, pushing her confusion aside. How do you feel? Tired, thirsty. He looked around. Where's Mr. Moretti? He was here all night. He went to change clothes. He stayed? Elijah's face lit up. That's so cool. He's like a superhero or something. Or something, Amara murmured. I like him, Mara. He's nice to me. And to you. Elijah grabbed her hand. Are you happy you married him? The question was innocent, sincere, but it cut deep. Was she happy? No. This wasn't the life she'd imagined. Wasn't the marriage she'd dreamed of as a girl. But was she grateful? Was she relieved that Elijah was safe, healthy, cared for? Yes. God, yes. I'm happy you're okay, she said, dodging the real question. That's all that matters. But do you love him? Elijah? It's okay if you don't yet, but maybe you could. His eyes were so hopeful, because I think he might love you. The way he looks at you sometimes, it's like you're important. Children saw things adults missed, saw through pretense and walls. What did Elijah see that Amara couldn't? We'll see, she said finally. Right now, let's focus on getting you better. But as the day went on, as Dr. Rossi checked in, as Luca returned to sit with them, as they watched movies and ate meals brought by staff, Amara found herself watching him, the way he talked to Elijah, patient and kind, the way he made sure Amara ate, bringing her tea without being asked, the way he checked his phone constantly as if monitoring threats she couldn't see. He was protecting them, not out of obligation or guilt, but because he'd made a choice, a commitment. And maybe, Amara thought as evening approached, maybe that meant something after all. Maybe showing up, day after day, night after night, was what made something real, even if it had started as an arrangement, even if it was complicated, even if she didn't understand it yet. 3 days later, Elijah was released from the infirmary. The infection had cleared, his lungs were strong, and Dr. Rossi declared him healthy. Keep an eye on him, she instructed. Any fever, any coughing, call me immediately. That night they had dinner together, all three of them. Elijah talked non-stop about the movie he'd watched, the book Sophia had brought him, the chess game Luca had taught him in the infirmary. Can we play again tonight? Elijah asked. Please? Luca smiled, actually smiled. After dinner, but you have to let me win at least once. No way, you have to earn it. Watching them, something shifted in Amara's chest. This felt almost normal, like a family. Not the family she'd planned, but a family nonetheless. After dinner, Luca and Elijah disappeared to play chess. Amara stood in the doorway of the study, watching them hunched over the board, Elijah's tongue poking out in concentration, while Luca patiently explained strategies. You're staring, Santino's voice said behind her. She turned, finding him leaning against the wall. His usual hard expression had softened slightly. I misjudged you, he said. What? When you first came here, I thought you were using Luca, playing games, but you're not. He nodded toward the room. You care about him, maybe more than you realize. I don't. You do. I see the way you watch him, the way you worry, the way you showed up in the infirmary. Santino's expression was serious. He deserves someone who cares. After Isabella, I thought, but maybe I was wrong. This isn't a love story, Amara said quietly. Maybe not yet. Santino pushed off the wall. But it could be, if you let it. He walked away, leaving her with the words echoing in her mind. Could it be? Could this arrangement become something real? Inside the study, Elijah laughed at something Luca said. The sound was pure joy, untainted by fear or sickness or worry. And Luca looked almost happy. Maybe, Amara thought, maybe Santino was right. Maybe this could be more than survival. Maybe it could be home. The night of Don Arturo's gathering arrived too quickly. Amara stood in front of the mirror while Sophia adjusted her dress, a deep emerald gown that hugged her curves and made her feel exposed despite covering everything that mattered. You look beautiful, Sophia said, stepping back to admire her work. Mr. Moretti won't be able to take his eyes off you. That's the point, isn't it? Performance. Amara's voice was bitter. Maybe it started that way. Sophia met her eyes in the mirror, but I've watched you too these past weeks. Something's changing. Before Amara could respond, someone knocked. Luca entered, and his steps faltered when he saw her. You look... He stopped, something unguarded flashing across his face. Beautiful. Thank you. She touched the bracelet on her wrist, his mother's. She wore it every day now, without really thinking about it. Are you ready? As ready as we'll ever be. He offered his arm. Remember, we're happy, in love, united. Right. Performance. But when she took his arm, when his hand covered hers with surprising gentleness, it didn't feel like performance anymore. It felt like something else entirely. Don Arturo's ballroom glittered with wealth and danger. Men in expensive suits, women dripping with jewels, all of them predators wearing civilized masks. Amara felt their eyes on her the moment she entered, assessing, calculating, judging. Stay close, Luca murmured, his hand firm on her waist. Don't talk to anyone without me. I'm not a child. You're my wife. In this world, that makes you a target. His grip tightened slightly. Please, Amara, trust me. She nodded, swallowing her pride. Don Arturo descended on them immediately, all false smiles and cold eyes. The happy couple. Come, let me introduce you to everyone. The next hour was a blur of handshakes and forced smiles. Names Amara would never remember. Faces that all looked the same. Rich, powerful, dangerous. Luca never left her side, his presence a constant shield. But she noticed things. The way certain men watched them with suspicion. The whispered conversations that stopped when they approached. The tension underlying every polite exchange. These people didn't believe in the marriage. They were waiting for it to crack. Dance with me, Luca said suddenly, guiding her toward the floor where other couples swayed to orchestral music. I don't know how. Follow my lead. His arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her close. His other hand captured hers, warm and steady. Just focus on me. She did. Had to, really, because the room was spinning and she could barely breathe in this dress and under all these watchful eyes. But Luca moved with fluid grace, guiding her through steps she didn't know. His hand on her back was firm, grounding. His dark eyes never left her face. You're doing fine, he murmured. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Don't. It would ruin the illusion. A hint of humor touched his voice. Besides, this dress is too expensive to waste. Despite everything, she almost smiled. They danced in silence and slowly. Amara stopped thinking about the watching eyes, stopped thinking about the performance. She just moved with him, let him guide her, let herself feel for just a moment what it might be like if this were real. Amara, Luca said quietly. Yes? Thank you for being here, for doing this. I didn't have much choice. You always have a choice. His hand shifted on her back, his thumb tracing a small circle that made her breath catch. You could have run, could have refused, could have made this impossible, and Elijah would have suffered. Still, you chose this. Chose me. The words were soft, vulnerable in a way she'd never heard from him. That means something. Before she could respond, someone cut in. A man Amara didn't recognize, older, with a cruel mouth and calculating eyes. May I? He asked, but he was already stepping between them. Luca's jaw tightened. We're in the middle of just one dance. Surely you can spare your beautiful wife for a few minutes. The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. I'm Marco Vitale, an old friend of Don Arturo's. Everything about him screamed danger, but refusing would cause a scene, would look suspicious. Luca's hand lingered on Amara's waist for a moment, his eyes searching hers. Be careful, that look said. I'm right here. Then he stepped back, and Marco took his place. The change was immediate. Where Luca had been warm and gentle, Marco was cold and invasive. His hand on her waist gripped too tight. His breath smelled like whiskey. So you're the woman who tamed Luca Moretti, Marco said, leering. I didn't think anyone could, especially after Isabella. I don't know what you mean. Of course you don't. Sweet, innocent thing. He leaned closer, his lips near her ear. But you should know. Everyone's watching, waiting. Some of us have money on how long this lasts. Amara's stomach twisted. That's disgusting. That's business. Luca made a lot of enemies when he married you. Aligned himself with Don Arturo. Changed the balance of power. Marco's grip tightened painfully. Some of us think you're a weakness. A crack in his armor. I'm not. We'll see. His smile was vicious. Pretty things break so easily. The song ended. Marco released her, bowing mockingly. A pleasure, Mrs. Moretti. Luca was there in an instant, his hand reclaiming her waist. Are you all right? Fine. But her voice shook. What did he say? Nothing important. She couldn't repeat it here. Not surrounded by enemies. Can we leave? Not yet. We need to stay another hour at least. He studied her face, concern creasing his brow. But we can step outside. Get some air. He led her through French doors onto a terrace overlooking manicured gardens. The night air was cool, clearing her head. Tell me what he said, Luca demanded once they were alone. He threatened me, said I was a weakness, that pretty things break easily. The words tumbled out. He said people are betting on how long we last. Luca's expression went dark, dangerous. Marco has always been a snake. I should have stopped him from... You couldn't, not without making a scene. Amara wrapped her arms around herself. Is he right? Am I making you weak? No. The word was fierce. You're making me stronger. How? By giving your enemies a target. By giving me something to protect, someone to... He stopped, looking away. You're not a weakness, Amara. You're a reason. A reason for what? To keep fighting. To keep building something better than what I inherited. He turned back to her, and the intensity in his eyes stole her breath. Before you, I was just existing, going through motions. But now you have an obligation. Now I have a wife. He stepped closer. A family. Something that matters more than business or power or old grudges. Luca, I know this started as an arrangement. I know you didn't choose me. Not really. But these past weeks, watching you with Elijah, seeing you adapt to this life, he reached up, his fingers ghosting along her jaw. You're stronger than you know, braver, and I... The explosion cut him off. The sound was deafening, glass shattering, people screaming. Luca threw himself over Amara, taking her to the ground as debris rained down. Stay down, he commanded, his body covering hers completely. More shouting. Gunfire now, sharp cracks in the night. Chaos erupted, guests running, men with weapons appearing from nowhere. We need to move, Luca said, pulling her to her feet. Now. They ran. Luca kept her behind him, his gun, when had he drawn a gun, sweeping the area. They made it to the edge of the garden when men emerged from the shadows, 3 of them, armed, blocking their escape. Well, well, one said, grinning. Luca Moretti and his pretty wife. Marco sends his regards. Luca shifted, putting Amara completely behind him. You have 3 seconds to walk away. Or what? You'll shoot us? The man laughed. There's 3 of us and 1 of you. Then this will be quick. Everything happened at once. Luca moved like violence incarnate, ducking, shooting, moving. The first man dropped. The second got a shot off, but Luca was already rolling, returning fire. The third tried to grab Amara, but Luca was there, his fist connecting with the man's jaw with a sickening crack. 10 seconds. That's all it took. 3 men on the ground. Luca standing over them, breathing hard, blood on his knuckles. He turned to Amara. Are you hurt? She shook her head, unable to speak. Good. He grabbed her hand. We're leaving. Now. They ran through the gardens, Luca's hand never leaving hers. Behind them, the mansion burned. Sirens wailed in the distance. The SUV was waiting where they'd left it, Santino at the wheel. What the hell happened? Santino demanded as they climbed in. Marco made his move. Luca's voice was ice. Drive, fast. They peeled out, tires screaming. Amara sat frozen, replaying everything. The explosion, the gunfire. Luca moving like a trained killer, which, oh God, he was. Elijah, she gasped suddenly. Is Elijah safe? He's at the villa. Under guard. He's fine. Luca pulled out his phone, dialing. But we're not going back, not yet. What? Why? Because if Marco hit the party, he might hit the villa too. He spoke rapid Italian into the phone, giving orders. We're going to a safe house until I can secure the situation. You can't just... I can and I am. He ended the call, his jaw set. Your safety comes first, always. The safe house turned out to be a small apartment in the city, nondescript, anonymous. Luca checked every room, every window, before finally holstering his weapon. We'll stay here tonight. Santino's coordinating security at the villa. If anything happens, he'll call. Amara sank onto the couch, adrenaline finally crashing. Her hands shook. Her breath came in short gasps. Hey! Luca knelt in front of her, his hands covering hers. You're safe, I've got you. You killed those men. The words came out strangled. Just killed them. Yes. Like it was nothing. It wasn't nothing. His voice was quiet, but it was necessary. They were going to hurt you, kill you. I couldn't let that happen. This is your world. Violence, death, constant danger. She looked at him, really looked at him. How do you live like this? Because the alternative is letting the people I care about die. He squeezed her hands. I'm sorry you had to see that. Sorry you're part of this now, but I'm not sorry I protected you. Marco was right. I am a weakness. No. Luca's voice was fierce. You're a strength. You're what keeps me human. What reminds me there's more to life than this. He gestured around them. You and Elijah. You're everything good in my world, everything worth fighting for. Tears slipped down Amara's cheeks. I don't know how to do this, how to be married to someone who lives like this. Then we figure it out together. He moved to sit beside her, pulling her against his chest. One day at a time, one crisis at a time. She let herself lean into him, let herself be held. His heartbeat was steady beneath her ear. His arms were strong and warm. For the first time, she admitted the truth to herself. This wasn't just an arrangement anymore. Somewhere between the wedding and tonight, between watching him with Elijah and feeling him shield her body with his own, something had shifted. She cared about him, maybe more than cared, and that terrified her more than any threat. They stayed at the safe house for 2 days. Luca spent most of it on the phone, coordinating security, tracking down Marco's associates, rebuilding defenses. Amara watched him work, seeing the strategist beneath the killer. He was good at this, ruthlessly efficient. But she also saw the moments when the mask slipped, when worry creased his brow, when he checked his phone for updates on Elijah, when his eyes found her across the room, as if reassuring himself she was still there. On the second night, Santino called with good news. Villa's secure. Marco's men have been neutralized. It's safe to come home. Home. The word felt right now. They returned after midnight. Elijah was asleep, guarded by 3 armed men outside his room. Amara checked on him, kissing his forehead before retreating to her own room. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the explosion, the gunfire, Luca killing those men without hesitation. Around 2 a.m., she gave up and wandered downstairs, found Luca in his office staring at nothing. Can't sleep either, she asked from the doorway. He looked up, exhaustion carved into his features. Too much adrenaline. It takes a while to come down. She entered, closing the door behind her. Do you ever regret it, this life? Every day. The honesty surprised her. But I don't know how to be anything else. This is what I was born into, trained for. You could leave, walk away. And go where? Do what? He laughed bitterly. I'm a killer, Amara. That's what I'm good at. That's all I know. That's not true. She moved closer. You're good with Elijah. Patient. Kind. You could have been a teacher, maybe. Or a coach. In another life, maybe. He stood, moving to the window. But not this one. What if you made a new life? The idea formed as she spoke. What if we took Elijah and left? Went somewhere quiet, safe, started over? They'd find us. Always. He turned back to her. There's no leaving this world once you're in it. The only way out is death. So we're trapped. Forever. I'm trapped. You... He crossed to her slowly. You could still leave. Take Elijah. I'd make sure you had money. Protection. You could disappear, start fresh. Without you. Yes. The word hung between them. A possibility. An escape. But as Amara looked at Luca, at the exhaustion in his eyes, the loneliness barely hidden beneath the surface, the man who'd thrown himself over her body without hesitation, She realized something. She didn't want to leave. Not anymore. No, she said quietly. No, I'm not leaving. We're not leaving. She stepped closer, her heart pounding. You said we're family. You meant it. Well, family doesn't abandon each other. Amara, I know this isn't the life I planned. I know it's dangerous and complicated and probably insane. She reached up, her hand finding his cheek. But you're right. We figure it out together. One day at a time. Something broke in his expression. The careful control shattered, revealing raw emotion beneath. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Maybe not, but you're stuck with me anyway. She tried to smile through sudden tears. For better or worse, isn't that what we promised? I thought you didn't mean those vows. I'm starting to. The confession hung in the air. True, terrifying, transformative. Luca's hand covered hers on his cheek. If I kiss you right now, it changes everything. You understand that? Her breath caught. Yes, this won't be performance. Won't be arrangement. It'll be real. I know. And you're sure? She kissed him, rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his, cutting off the question. For a moment he froze. Then he responded, his arms wrapping around her, pulling her close, kissing her with an intensity that stole her breath. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, hungry. Years of loneliness and pain and hope poured into one moment. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Luca rested his forehead against hers. I'm falling in love with you, he confessed. Have been for weeks. I tried to fight it, tried to keep distance, but I know. She smiled against his lips. I think I'm falling too, even though I'm a killer, even though this life is dangerous. Because you're also the man who stayed up all night watching my brother breathe, who shields me with your body, who's trying so hard to be better than what he was trained to be. She pulled back to look at him. I see you, Luca, all of you, and I'm choosing this, choosing us. The relief and joy that flooded his face was beautiful to witness. Stay with me tonight, he said. Not in your room, in mine. Just stay. Okay. He took her hand, leading her through the dark villa to his private quarters. The room was simpler than she'd imagined. A large bed, minimal furniture, windows overlooking the gardens. They lay down together, still fully clothed, wrapped in each other's arms. No pressure, no expectations, just comfort, connection. Tell me about Isabella, Amara said quietly. I want to know. Luca was silent for so long, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, she was light. Laughter. Everything good I'd never had. His voice was rough with old pain. We got married young, arranged like us, but we fell in love. Really in love. When she got pregnant, I thought maybe I could be more than what my father was. More than this life. And then she died. And then I failed her. He tightened his hold on Amara. I swore I'd never care that much again. Never put myself through that pain. But then you showed up, angry and fierce and protective of your brother. And I couldn't help it. I'm not her. No, you're you. Stronger in different ways. Braver. He kissed her forehead. Isabella would have liked you, I think. Would have appreciated how you fight for what you love. They talked through the night. About Isabella, about Amara's parents, about childhood shaped by loss and responsibility, about fears and hopes and the impossible situation they'd found themselves in. As dawn broke, painting the room in soft gold, Luca whispered, I'm going to protect you, both of you, whatever it takes. I know. Amara traced patterns on his chest. But you don't have to do it alone anymore. We're a team now. A team. He smiled, truly smiled. I like that. They fell asleep, tangled together. The world outside still dangerous, but somehow more manageable now that they faced it together. The next weeks transformed everything. The marriage that had started as obligation became genuine partnership. Luca still worked long hours managing his business, but he came home for dinner, played chess with Elijah, held Amara's hand during movies. They were building something, a family. Not perfect, not safe, but real. Santino noticed the change immediately. You're different, he observed one afternoon, watching Luca watch Amara play with Elijah by the pool. Lighter. She makes me want to be better, Luca admitted. Good. You deserve that. Santino clapped his shoulder. Isabella would be happy for you. I hope so. But peace was fragile in their world. 3 weeks after the gathering, Amara was in the library when Santino burst in, his face pale. Where's Luca? Office. Why? What's wrong? Don Arturo, he's... Santino swallowed hard. Elijah's been taken. The world stopped. What? The word came out as a whisper. 20 minutes ago. He was in the garden with his tutor. Armed men came over the wall, knocked out the guards, took him. Santino's hands were shaking. It was planned, coordinated. They knew exactly when. Amara was running before he finished, down the hall, crashing into Luca's office. "Elijah's gone," she gasped. "Don Arturo took him." Luca's expression went carefully blank, the mask slamming down, but she saw fury burning beneath. "When?" 20 minutes. Santino said. Luca was already moving, grabbing weapons from a hidden safe, making calls. His voice was cold, commanding, terrifying. "I want every man we have, every resource, every favor owed." He listened to responses, jaw tight. "And get me Don Arturo's location. I don't care how." Amara stood frozen, her mind screaming. Elijah, her baby brother, in the hands of that monster. Luca ended his calls and crossed to her, gripping her shoulders. "Listen to me. I will get him back. I swear it. What if—" "No, don't think like that." His voice was fierce. "Elijah is smart, strong. He'll survive until I get there. And I will get there, do you understand?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I need you to stay here, with guards, where it's safe." "No." The word came out stronger than she felt. "I'm coming with you. Amara, he's my brother. I'm coming." Luca searched her face, seeing the determination there. Finally, he nodded. "Stay behind me. Do exactly as I say. No arguments." Agreed. They gathered in the garage. Luca, Santino, 8 armed men. An arsenal that terrified and comforted Amara in equal measure. "Don Arturo's holding him at his compound," Santino reported. "Heavy security. 20 men at least. Then we bring 30. Luca checked his weapons with practiced efficiency. "And we don't leave until Elijah's safe." The drive was silent, tense. Amara sat pressed against Luca's side, his hand gripping hers so tight it hurt. But she didn't complain. She needed the anchor. When they arrived at Don Arturo's estate, the same one from the gathering, night had fallen. Lights blazed from every window. Guards patrolled the perimeter. "They're expecting us," Santino said. "Good." Luca's smile was vicious. Let them expect. What followed was chaos. Gunfire erupted, brief, brutal exchanges. Luca moved through the estate like an avenging angel, his men flanking him, eliminating threats with ruthless efficiency. Amara followed, staying close to Santino, her heart in her throat. She'd never seen violence like this, never imagined the man she'd married capable of such controlled fury. But when she thought of Elijah, scared, alone, possibly hurt, she understood. This was what love looked like in Luca's world, protection at any cost. They found Don Arturo in his office, sitting calmly behind his desk, as if nothing was wrong. 2 guards flanked him. "Luca, I've been expecting you." Don Arturo smiled. "Come to discuss terms? Where is he?" Luca's gun was already drawn, aimed at Don Arturo's head. "Tell me now or you die." Such dramatics. "The boy is fine, locked in the cellar. A bit scared, but unharmed." Don Arturo leaned back. "But he stays there until we reach an agreement." "What agreement?" "You've become too powerful, Luca. Too independent. This marriage—" He gestured at Amara. "It changed the balance. I can't have that." "So you kidnapped an innocent child?" "I took leverage." Don Arturo's eyes were cold. "You give up your alliance with the Castellano family. You step back from the port operations. You remember who you answer to." "I answer to no one." "Wrong answer." Don Arturo reached for something beneath his desk. Luca fired. The shot echoed in the confined space. Don Arturo slumped forward, a red stain spreading across his pristine white shirt. His guards raised their weapons, but Luca's men were faster. 2 more shots. Silence. "Where's the cellar?" Luca demanded of no one in particular. They found it, a locked door near the kitchen. Luca shot the lock off and wrenched it open. Elijah sat in the corner, knees pulled to his chest, tears streaking his face. When he saw Amara, he ran. "Mara!" He crashed into her arms, sobbing. "I was so scared. They said, shh, I've got you. You're safe now." She held him tight, her own tears falling. "You're safe." Luca knelt beside them, his hand gentle on Elijah's shoulder. "I'm sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry this happened." "You came," Elijah said, looking at him with wide eyes. "You came to save me." "Of course I did. Your family." Luca's voice broke slightly. "I'll always come for you. Always." They left the estate in flames, Luca's final message to anyone who might think to threaten his family again. Back at the villa, Dr. Rossi checked Elijah thoroughly. Physically, he was fine. Emotionally, that would take time. "He's resilient," the doctor said. "But he'll need support." Maybe therapy. Whatever he needs, Luca said. Cost doesn't matter. That night, Elijah refused to sleep alone. So they made a nest of blankets in the master bedroom, all three of them curled up together, Elijah between Luca and Amara. Are the bad men gone? Elijah asked sleepily. Yes, Luca said firmly. They're gone, and no one will hurt you again. I promise. Good. Elijah's eyes drifted closed. 'Cause I like living here, with you guys, like a real family. Amara met Luca's eyes over Elijah's head. A real family. Despite everything, the violence, the danger, the impossible circumstances, that's what they'd become. I love you, she mouthed silently. Luca's expression softened. I love you too, he mouthed back. They fell asleep that way. Three people who'd found each other in chaos, who'd built something precious from broken pieces. 1 year later, the garden party was Elijah's idea, like a real birthday party, with friends and everything. So they invited everyone, Dr. Rossi, Sophia, Santino and his new girlfriend, even some kids from Elijah's new school. The villa, once cold and silent, filled with laughter and life. Amara stood on the terrace, watching Luca chase Elijah across the lawn, both of them laughing. Her hand rested on her small bump, barely visible yet, but there. A secret she'd only shared with Luca 2 days ago. He'd cried. Actually cried. Tears of joy and fear and hope all mixed together. We're having a baby, he'd whispered, his hand reverently touching her stomach. A real baby. Are you happy? Terrified. But yes, so happy. He'd kissed her then, soft and sweet. Isabella would have loved this, would have loved you. I wish I could have known her. She's part of our story anyway, part of what brought us here. He'd smiled through his tears. She'd want me to be happy, to live, and I am. With you, I am. Now watching him with Elijah, seeing the life they'd built from impossible circumstances, Amara felt profound gratitude. This hadn't been the plan. This wasn't the life she'd imagined, but it was hers, theirs, built on choice and commitment and love that had grown from the most unlikely soil. Santino appeared beside her holding a glass of wine. Penny, for your thoughts? Just thinking about how much has changed. She smiled. A year ago, I didn't even know Luca existed. Now he's your whole world. Santino clinked his glass against hers. You're good for him, better than anyone thought possible, even me. Thanks, I think. It's a compliment. Luca deserves happiness after everything. Santino's expression grew serious. Taking out Don Arturo started a small war. Other families tried to move in on his territory. It's been complicated. But we're winning. We're surviving. That's enough. He gestured to the garden. And look what we're protecting. That's what matters. Amara watched Luca lift Elijah onto his shoulders, both of them grinning. Her family, unconventional, complicated, born from necessity, but sustained by choice. Yeah, she said softly, that's what matters. Later, after the guests left and Elijah fell asleep exhausted but happy, Amara and Luca sat by the pool. Stars sparkled overhead. The night was peaceful, warm. Happy? Luca asked, his arm around her shoulders. Very. She leaned into him. You? More than I ever thought possible. He kissed her temple. You know what today is? Elijah's birthday? That. But also, he pulled back to look at her. 1 year ago today, you agreed to marry me. In this garden. In the rain. She'd forgotten, but he'd remembered. That was the day my life changed, he continued. The day I started living instead of just existing. The day I found hope again. Luca, I know we started wrong. I know I forced your hand, put you in an impossible position. His eyes were earnest, vulnerable. But I need you to know, I'd choose this. Choose you. Every single day. So would I. She touched his face, her heart full. This wasn't the love story I imagined, but it's the one I needed. You're the one I needed. He kissed her, slow, deep, full of promise and love and gratitude for the life they'd built. When they broke apart, Amara rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Steady, strong, alive. We're going to be okay, she whispered. All of us. Whatever comes. Yes. His hand found hers, fingers interlacing. Because we're family, and family doesn't give up, doesn't walk away. Never. They sat in the darkness. Two people who'd found each other in chaos, who'd transformed obligation into love, survival into home. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Danger still lurked in the shadows. Enemies still plotted. The world they lived in didn't forgive or forget. But they faced it together, And that made all the difference. In the villa behind them, Elijah slept peacefully, safe and loved. In Amara's womb, new life grew, a symbol of hope and healing and second chances. And in the garden where their marriage had begun with rain and reluctance, Luca and Amara held each other under the stars, building their future one heartbeat, one choice, one day at a time. Real, earned, theirs, the end.